Hey everyone, it's Coach Matt from Primal Athlete Training Center and primalatc.com. We got an email today from Tim, and Tim says, hey, I'm a track coach in New Jersey. I watch your videos on YouTube. You show some great tips. My freshmen have trouble with the spin, so I teach a half spin. Do you have any videos showing the proper way to do a half spin? We usually start at the back of the circle and try to step to the middle, then swing our hips around, then power position the throw. Any tips or videos would be great. Thanks. Now the reason why I'm answering Tim's question today is because Tim went to primalatc.com, and at the bottom of primalatc.com there's a little gray box that says email us or contact us. And if you click on that, your email is going to go directly to my inbox, which means I'm going to get it on my phone wherever I am. Today I happen to be here in the gym training. I got the email, I pulled out the camera, and I'm answering it now. It's a lot faster way of doing it, so if you have questions, go to primalatc.com, click that little gray box, and contact me directly by email, and I'll get your question answered right away. You won't have to wait until I go to YouTube and go through all the comments of the comment section to find your question. I'll get to it as soon as possible. Now, what Tim is talking about is what he's calling a half turn or a half spin. And typically what we're talking about is the athlete facing right down the middle of that sector. So you've got your sector left and right lines. You're facing right down the middle. The athlete will typically start with both feet in the circle. And they do this during track meets because at a track meet you can't start with one foot in, one foot out. You have to start with both of your feet in the circle. So this half turn is really nothing more than a South African position where you don't get to drive your knee down the middle. You don't get as much of a pull or drive. So what it looks like is the athlete will start, both feet together, and they'll start swinging the discus forward. Knees will be bent, nice athletic position. Start the discus going forward and backward, and then the athlete will take a step along with the discus and try to drive and land in that power position. Now, I don't teach this to my athletes. The reason being, I want them to get used to and to transition into the full turn and the full throw as quickly as possible. So I'll start right with the South African and then go into the mirror turn, into the full throw, or into that power position throw, standing throw. The reason why is because athletes get used to this half turn. Athletes get used to just taking one step, turning and throwing. And if you know athletes, when they get used to something, when they get good at doing it, they're not going to want to stop. So if you have an athlete who's a freshman, say he can throw 100 feet with the discus, doing this little half turn, doing this little half throw. You try to teach him the full throw, and maybe he only throws 90 feet for a couple weeks. He's never going to want to do that full throw ever again. He's always going to want to stick with this half throw because he's throwing it further. We see it all the time in the shot, in the hammer, and in the javelin, where say you have a javelin thrower who can throw 100 feet, taking a little 4-step or 5-step approach. He's never going to want to go into that full approach because when he starts doing it, he might only throw 80 feet. But he's always going to want to do what's easier. Even though it might be a little bit harder to teach him the full throw, it might take a few weeks and he'll be throwing even further, they're not going to want to do it. So for that reason, I don't teach this. But the way that you do the half turn and the way that I would teach this to my athletes is instead of starting right down the middle of that sector, I would point them down that left sector line, just like they would be if they were doing the full throw. Okay? I would also start them with their power foot, the power leg, the inside of the foot facing. Remember, in the back of the circle, as you come out of that full turn, you're going to be leading with the inside of the foot. So for that reason, I would start this drill right here at the inside of the foot. Now, when you would also start, I would not have them go forward and backward. It's going to treat a bad habit. What I would do, I'm going to show you here, is I would have them start going left to right with the discus flat to the ground to teach them the proper habits to get into. I'm going to show you that right here. Okay, so we're starting out, we're facing down that left sector line, and the inside of our power foot, or the inside of our power leg, is facing there as well. Now when you start out, you really want to start with the discus horizontal, parallel to the ground. The tricky part is the timing, because what's going to happen is the athlete is going to want to go when the discus comes forward. The athlete's going to want to turn right along with it. But think back to our previous videos. You want to start with the discus behind the hip. So the timing becomes a little bit crucial. Start behind the hip. That way you have to time it so as the discus comes back, as it's coming back, you're driving forward. That's going to keep the discus behind that right hip. It's going to keep all of your weight back. So let me show you once more. You're going to start with your left foot facing down the left sector. The right foot, the foot of my power leg, is facing the inside of the foot, just like a soccer kick. Start inside the circle. You're going to come back a few times. And as the discus comes back, as it's behind the hip, that's when you're going to turn and go right into that half turn. Now quickly from there, once they master that, I would then start with the foot outside the circle in the South African, doing the same thing. What that's going to do is that's going to teach the athlete the timing of having the discus behind the hip and driving, having a full step, having a full drive down the circle, doing the mirror turn and landing in that power position. From there, we simply just add a twist. We add a turn and drive down that discus circle. So you can see that this half turn is certainly something that you can teach your athletes to help them transition from the back of the circle into the mirror turn into the full throw. But I really wouldn't use it during a meet, just because the athletes are going to get used to it and they're going to want to do it all the time and never transition into the full throw. Guys, just like Tim, if you have any questions, you've got to visit primalatc.com. We've got a brand new website getting going here in the next couple of days. It's going to be a daily blog with entries and tips, just like you saw today. Videos written on anything you could think of involving the throwing events. So make sure to go to primalatc.com. Let your teammates, let your other coaches know about it. We're going to be sending tips like this out every single day to you. Thanks again, and just like Tim, if you have questions, visit Primal ATC, click that email me box. It'll get right to me, and I'll answer your questions here in the next couple of days. Thanks a lot, everybody, for checking us out.